The suspects were 3 soldiers. This was an internal investigation. What exactly are you supposed to ask them about? The young doctor inquired. He seemed like someone too professional to ask gossipy questions, but it appeared his interest had been piqued. I can see why they might want to keep this quiet. There is a woman involved, Liumin said. A woman, said the doctor, studying the ground with all the embarrassment of an innocent boy. Why do they want my old man to handle this? Maomao wondered. Perhaps there hadn't been anyone else suited to the task. She became increasingly surprised as she learned more about the people being interrogated. They all have the same family name, she said. There were only a few dozen family names in Li, so sharing a name wasn't unusual. However, for all 3 suspects to have the same family name was a little odd. They are brothers. Triplets at that, Liumen said. Triplets. That caught the attention of both Maomao and the young doctor. A woman claims that one of the 3 tried to force himself on her, but she brought her charges without being completely certain which of them it was. Since the woman is related to a soldier, it was decided that the investigation should begin as an internal matter. However, yes, what? The triplets' father is a high-ranking official with the Board of Justice. He is insisting that no trial can be held until they know for sure which of the 3 did it. My understanding is that this wouldn't be the first time the boys have used their father's privilege to shield them from responsibility for their wrongdoings. Geez, Maomao thought with an instinctive scowl. We will have one chance and one chance only to question them. We must make it clear who committed the crime. We must not fail. That was why the freak strategist had turned to Liumen. It remained a mystery why he had suddenly become such an industrious worker, but he continued to display excellent judgment in his choice of operatives. Maomao's father was brilliant, a man who could hear one fact and deduce 10 more. Liumen wasted no time and went to hear the young men's stories the very next day. Would you come with me and write down what they say, Maomao? I would like to have a third party's opinion. I had better not. I always bring out the freaks, or more precisely the freak. She shook her head, imagining what would happen if the strategist showed up. You needn't worry. Lacan will not be there. All right, fine, but what about Yao and Nen? She glanced over. The 2 were working in the same office as she was today. They would be sure to notice if she slipped away. I have spoken to them. Yao said she wasn't skilled in shorthand. Maomao thought the same, but she didn't say it aloud. If Yao overheard, she might volunteer for the task. Then Nen wouldn't let her be in a room with men accused of violence against a young woman. No, the wise choice here was to stay silent. Yao might be frustrated by her own shortcomings, but she was willing to accept the limits they placed on her. Yao had been watching Maomao regretfully from behind a post for some time now. Behind her, Nen waved a white handkerchief. It was as if to say, get going, see you later. Maomao said, I guess we had best be going. She knew the sooner they got started, the sooner they would be finished. They were given a conference room to work in. It was located amidst the military offices. The room was not cramped, but it wasn't spacious either. It felt more like an interrogation chamber than a real meeting room. The incident they were investigating happened about 5 days ago. The question was which of the men, if any, had laid hands on a 14-year-old girl. Maomao thought someone might say the girl was partly to blame for trusting a handsome face. However, there had been a sudden thunderstorm that day. The girl had become separated from her attendant and said she was frightened. That was the day I went shopping with Yao and Nen. Maomao felt a flash of anger. She wanted to find some way to punish the man who had taken advantage of a frightened girl. No, she needed to calm down. She had to remain fair-minded. They did not know for certain which of the triplets was the culprit. There was, admittedly, the possibility that the accusation was false. Oh, it's you, said the soldier who met them at the door. Maomao recognized the big mutt, that is to say Lihaku. Thank you for being here, her father said with a polite bow. Sure, if there is any trouble, just shout. There is another official in there, a secretary, but he is just a bureaucrat. He thumped his broad chest, outgoing and direct as always. What brings you here, Master Lihaku? Maomao asked. Orders from above. The suspects are who they are, so we cannot have anyone getting violent. They wanted a capable guard on hand. Also, I outrank those 3 brothers, and I know you. I think that is why they chose me. Very interesting. It made sense. It would have been more accurate to say Lihaku knew Maomao would be impartial, rather than that he simply knew Maomao. Besides, he said, assignments like this are a nice change of pace from time to time. Lihaku grinned at her, ever the good-natured fellow. She noticed the sash of rank around his waist was different from before. Looks like you're really moving up in the world, if I may say so, she said. Sure am. The thing is, I've started getting so much desk work that my body is losing its edge. Maomao was eager to know how much money he was making these days. She knew it would be uncouth to ask, so she refrained. She was very curious to know if he could redeem Perrin, the princess of the Verdigris house whom he adored. My apologies for interrupting, but may I ask you a few things? Liuhumin said, looking at Lihaku. Oh, yes, of course. Sorry, go ahead. It sounds like you have some personal acquaintance with these three young men. What kinds of people are they? Lihaku put his hand to his chin thoughtfully. You know, I'm not quite sure how to answer that. All three of them are clever scoundrels. They look identical, and they even sound a lot alike. I guess their personalities are pretty similar too. I couldn't be sure though, because I haven't known them long enough to really tell one from the other. I guarantee no one meeting them for the first time could tell them apart. I think they are using that to give that young lady the runaround. They are good-looking, no doubt about that. They are definitely handsome enough to deceive an idealistic girl. Ho, that is why they only pursue sheltered girls, young women who do not know how the world works. There are even stories that they have assaulted girls as young as 12 years old. Lihaku looked like he found the idea incomprehensible. That tears it. We do not need the likes of them. Trying to make time with girls who might not even be menstruating yet was almost too much for Maomao to stand. She could imagine many of the girls crying themselves to sleep afterward. Her father nodded. Are the brothers close with each other? Not to speak of, Lihaku said. Once one of them made a mistake on the job. There was an inquest to see who had made the mistake. There was no covering for each other and no trying to help each other out. They all seem to want to make things as bad as possible for each other. So this mistake, did they not try to conspire to keep it under wraps? Do you think they could? The monocled old fart, he would see right through them. It was nice of Lihaku to remember what Maomao had told him. The freak strategist was basically worthless as a human being, but he was good at go, shogi and judging character. He should have dealt with this case himself, Maomao thought. They needed hard proof, though. Even with a gut feeling about who the perpetrator was, they would have to produce some evidence. Lihaku said, phew, that was something to see. Oh, that reminds me. Yes, Lihaku continued, I assume 2 of the 3 brothers will be honest. They do whatever they like because they know their father will protect them. They won't expect to be punished if they haven't done anything wrong. I think they will tell the truth if they don't think it will do them any harm. You are quite an honest person yourself, Liuhumin said. His face softened into a smile that made him look like a kindly old lady. Gee, you think so, Lihaku said. In any case, thank you for your help. We will be counting on you to jump in if we need anything in the way of more physical assistance. Her father walked into the room, and Maomao trotted after him. They found a man with the air of a civil official waiting inside. He must have been the secretary Lihaku had mentioned. When he saw them, he rose from his chair and bowed. They should be here soon. Please have a seat. Thank you kindly, Liuhumin said, sitting down. There was a table with a sheet of paper. It detailed the 3 brothers' jobs and exactly who their family members were. Are they trying to intimidate us? Maomao wondered. The paper seemed to mean we are here because the strategist ordered it, but you do not have any authority to punish us. Now, how are we going to handle this? Liuhumin mused. They were to speak to each of the 3 brothers individually, and the first of them had arrived. Time to get started. Maomao dipped her brush in ink, ready to take down everything she could. You have clearly got something wrong somewhere because I haven't done anything. For one thing, I find it unthinkable to lay hands on a girl who is merely 14 years old. What evidence do you have against me? Where was I 5 days ago? I was downtown getting a drink after work. Anyone would want a drink when they are finally off for the day, wouldn't they? I didn't want to spend too much money, so I headed for the southern side of town. I know a place that sells good grape wine for cheap. No, I didn't go to the pleasure district. That part of town is not ideal for drinking, I can tell you that. You always run the risk of accusations just like this one. You wonder why men say women are so frightening. Thunder, yes, that was a huge thunderclap. I certainly do remember it. Who could forget a boom like that? The lightning must have struck very close to the capital. I heard that tremendous noise almost as soon as I saw the flash of light. I do not mind saying it gave me a good start. The rain only got worse after that, so I stayed at the tavern until it let up. Do you want to know when this all happened? The evening bell had just begun to ring. First I saw the sky light up, then I heard the bell. The thunder came only a moment later, so as you can see I am completely innocent. You can ask the tavern keeper, he will vouch for me. One of my younger brothers did it. Dispose of them however you like, but if you try to pin this crime on one of us without some very good evidence, well, I assume you know what will happen to you. The eldest brother was the first to speak to them. He was good-looking, just as Lihaku had said. However, his pallor was poor, and he was given to the occasional twitch. His fists were clenched, and they stayed that way during the entire questioning. Perhaps he was hungover from the drink he was so fond of, or maybe nerves were taking their toll on him. However, he answered their questions quickly, though his tone challenged them to find the person responsible. Liuhumen gave a thoughtful hum and stroked his chin. Maomao knew that even if she and the secretary hadn't recorded anything, her father would remember every word. He was truly that gifted. The eldest brother departed, and a man who resembled him arrived, but with noticeably better colour in his cheeks. The paper announced this was the middle brother. It was polite of them to proceed from oldest to youngest in an easily identifiable order. What a pain. I'm trying to get my work done, and you call me away for an interrogation. How do you plan to make this up to me when you realize I have done nothing wrong? Well, anyway, since I have not done anything wrong, I am perfectly happy to talk to you and get this over with, after which I will be leaving. I suppose you want to know where I was and what I was up to 5 days ago. I just happened to have no duties that day, so I took a short trip on horseback. It wasn't too far, though. I had work the next day and knew I had to be back by evening. What's that? Where did I go? It was not far from the capital. I returned in a hurry because the heavens looked ready to open at any moment. I was tired, so I came home and went straight to bed. Are you sure you know which house is mine? You must know who my father is. Perhaps you wouldn't have dragged me here if you already knew. Does anyone have proof of my alibi? My servants do, but I doubt you would believe them. You would likely complain and claim I told them to lie for me. I am afraid that is how it is, though. My quarters are in an annex, not the main house, so I doubt anyone else even noticed me coming or going. You want to know where I was when the evening bell sounded? Ah, you mean around the time there was that clap of thunder. Believe me, the rainstorm that came after that finished off a tiring day. It surprised me terribly. The sky lit up just as the bell was sounding, and then came that terrible crash. It must have been a terrible fright for the bell ringers. They might easily have been struck by lightning being so high up in the tower. They weren't, of course. That is a shame. Are you quite satisfied now? I am going back to work. It must have been one of my brothers who did it, the older one or the younger one. I am sure you will look into it very carefully. We wouldn't want any mistakes. This second brother was no less provocative than the first. He had a mocking smile on his face from beginning to end. Maomao noticed blisters on the palm of his hand. This wasn't surprising, though. He was a soldier, and soldiers practiced swordsmanship and rode horseback. A few blisters were nothing unusual for him. Maomao finished recording his testimony, scowling slightly. His father nodded and made a twirling motion with his finger. They both wanted to get this farce over with. The third and youngest brother came in. He looked, of course, just like the others. Maomao was getting a bit sick of that face, but she would have to put up with it. The youngest brother appeared healthy, not sick and not especially lively. What am I last? I wish one of my brothers had confessed sooner. I could have been spared this. Ah well, can we hurry up and get through this? I'm already finished with work for the day. 5 days ago I was working all day. Yes, it was quitting time, but they had piled some more work on me. They told me to go to the archives and fetch this book. That is a bureaucrat's job, if you ask me. Blast that freak strategist. Ahem, no, I did not say anything. Nothing at all. Anyway, I went to get the books. I had a pleasant chat with a court lady I bumped into. She wasn't 14 years old. Her name and department. Whom it was, you know, I guess I don't remember. Which archive was I in? The storage building is in the Western Quarter. Soldiers do not go out there too often, but at least I have a new friend to show for my little excursion. So anyway, before I knew it, it was past time to go home. Yes, I believe I was in the archives when the evening bell rang. It was dark outside, and there was a bit of a rain shower. I did not actually hear the bell, but it must have been around that time. The thunder, though, I definitely heard that. I heard that. I was carrying a lot of documents, and the flash startled me so much that I dropped them all over the floor. I bent down to pick them up, and then I heard the sound. It felt like the earth was shaking. It was a big one. How long did it take me to finally reach the floor? I was a bit dazed, but it couldn't have been more than 4 or 5 seconds. Is that better? I am dying to get home, so I will be on my way now, thank you. She had hoped at least one of the brothers would turn out to be a halfway decent person, but they didn't. All 3 of them were hopeless. Maomao was exhausted, and she had only been transcribing the interviews. Liumen, however, was nodding as if this somehow made sense to him, alone among the 3 of them. The secretary promptly went about making a clean copy of what he had written down. Maomao leaned over, whispering so she wouldn't be overheard. She said, "Did you get anything, Pops?" I think we have most of the pieces we need," he said. He sounded downright blasé. Maomao looked at him in confusion. She liked to think she'd picked up a thing or 2 from her dad, but there was still so much she didn't know. For example, she wondered what was going through the old eunuch's head at that moment. "Perhaps we can organize our thoughts when we get back," he said. He lifted himself out of his chair, using his cane to steady himself. Outside they saw there would be guard. "Didn't need old Lihaku, huh?" he said, although he sounded a bit dejected about it. Maomao was sure he would have loved an official excuse to punch at least one of those 3 infuriating faces. As soon as they got back to the medical office, Maomao's father requested a map of the capital and its environs. Maomao was wondering if she would need to go to the archives to find it. Then Dr. Liu brought out a copy, saving her the trouble. He warned them to keep it clean. Liumen had planned to mark it up, so he quietly hid his brush. He looked around for something he could use. He found some small ceramic knickknacks in various colors. They were normally used to keep medicine packets from flying away. "What are you doing?" asked Yao. She and Nen came over with much curiosity. Dr. Liu could hardly object. They were both already done for the day. It was up to them what they did with their free time. Liumen said, "Just trying to organize the information we have. Would you 2 like to help?" Yao flushed at the way he was obviously hoping they would say yes. She looked away, meaning she supposed she had no choice. It was very much like her to not quite be able to simply say yes. Nen was clearly burning the image of her young mistress into her retinas. Her intensity was a little frightening. "For starters, 1 marker goes here," Liumen said, placing a red piece of pottery in the center of the capital. "What does that represent?" Maomao asked. "This is where they ring the evening bell, yes," Liumen replied. "Yes, that is the place. It's located so you can hear it anywhere in the city," Yao said. She knew very well where it was. They had walked right by it on that stormy day. Next, Liumen put down 3 blue markers. One was round, one was triangular, and the other was square. The round one represents the eldest son. He claimed to be there at the time of the incident. The triangle is on the house where the second son said he was, and this square I've placed at the Western Archives. That is where the youngest claimed he was. So no 2 of them were in the same place on the day of the attack, Yao said. "That's right. And this is where the young woman says she was." Liumen pointed again to the red object right near the shopping district. "But that," Maomao said, "it was right near where she and her friends had been." Yao frowned. If we had found that poor frightened girl, maybe none of this would have happened. She looked pained, then cast her eyes to the ground. They had barely been able to see a thing for the rain that day. And anyway, they had been intent on finishing their shopping as quickly as they could. They had been too occupied for anything else. Maomao's father said, not unkindly, "It means nothing in the face of what is already done." He continued, "The most we can do now is to help ensure that this doesn't happen to anyone else. All three of the suspects claim they have witnesses who can testify to their whereabouts. However, all three of their alibis seem fishy. Do you know which of them is lying, sir? Maomao asked, being careful to speak politely while Yao and Enen were present. I believe I do. But first I think a little more information would be helpful. He looked at the three of them. Do you all remember that thunderclap 5 days ago? I do. What a noise, Yao said. We were outside when it happened. It was quite surprising, Enen added. You said you were near the bell tower, yes? Liu Humen asked, tapping the red object. And from what I've heard, the lightning struck near the northwestern part of the city. He placed a yellow object by the city walls. Maomao and the others blinked. They could not fathom what he was getting at. Might I ask one more question? Liu Humen said, please do. Which came first, the lightning and thunder or the evening bell? His question prompted Enen to clap her hands.